So welcome to wait. What's up, guys? Welcome to NIBS the podcast. I'm your host, Milenist, and
Paul Antonio.
Hi, guys. Most of you probably know us. Some of you know me. Others know Paul. Some other people maybe know both of us. 1 year ago, I was doing the Calligrapher's podcast, Calligraphy Master Show. It has more than 18 episodes, and there are also some unreleased episodes, but I put this podcast on pause for now. And this is totally new kind of podcast. It's gonna be 45 minutes each episode. I'm not sure about this episode because, as some of you might know, Paul just got through COVID and his condition is not so good still. And if he doesn't feel well, we can do this podcast less than 45 minutes. But basically, in this podcast, NIBS podcast, we will be talking about calligraphy and lettering. Me and Paul will be the hosts, and mostly we're gonna be talking with each other. Sometimes we're gonna have some guests. It's not gonna be the podcast like Calligraphy Master Show where there was a new guest in each episode. This one is gonna be me and Paul mostly. And I'm still talking. I'm gonna give the word to Paul in a few seconds. Just want to explain the things which I was just talking with him. Wow, it's funny. Like I haven't talked in English for quite so long time, and now it's hard for me. I haven't done any videos on YouTube and haven't talked with anyone, so it feels even harder for me this time. So, Paul, if you want, you can talk a bit until I got my thoughts together.
So Milan and I were talking about this when he came to visit me in London, which seems like an absolute age ago. One of the things we thought about was just having a session of us talking together, and then Milan did a question on, I think it was Instagram, where he said to people, would you like to hear Paul and I just sort of talking about topics that we like? And there were so many people who responded saying, I think that's a great idea. And he sent me pictures saying, see, I told you. And I was like, oh my God. So,
it's funny. I don't even remember this. Now that you're telling me, I was like, flashbacks coming, but I totally forgot about this. Your memory, it's quite good for a person who just got through COVID, dude.
Well, I'm glad I have a fairly strong, robust memory. And so that's how this came about. And we thought we would just sort of talk about topics that we find interesting. So Milan's going to start off talking about topics that he wants to discuss with you guys over the NIBS podcast over the coming months. And I will talk about topics that I think, are really important for you to sort of understand and to have a little bit more of a grasp on lettering and calligraphy and the lettering related fields. And then we'll just sort of wrap up.
This was the point of view of Paul. I'm gonna tell how I saw and why I wanted to do this podcast. If you have listened ever to the Calligraphy Master Show, the podcast I was doing a year ago, the first episode was with Paul Antonio, and this is probably one of the most listened podcast episodes from this podcast. And people actually were requesting to me like many times, oh, you should do more podcasts with Paul, more podcasts with Paul. And I was like, sure. And the other thing is, me and Paul, we are like brothers. He's more than family to me. He helped me so many times. Whenever I need something, he helps me. I help him. We're literally like family. And the thing is, we very often are talking like this because he's living in UK, I'm living in Bulgaria, and I need to talk with him. When I don't feel good or when I have some ideas, I always go to Paul and we discuss stuff. And with the time, I realized that sometimes just by talking, we go into deep conversations about calligraphy and lettering that I think could be very useful to many of the people who are just starting in calligraphy, people who are already some time in calligraphy, and sometimes even for very advanced people. That's why I really think this podcast is going to be very useful to you people who are listening right now. And I hope you enjoy it. My idea, which I explained a few minutes ago to Paul, is like each episode 45 minutes, 15 minutes me and him talking on topics that I choose, that I feel that we need to talk, then 15 minutes topics that he chooses to talk about, and then 15 minutes we can talk about topics that you guys choose. For example, you can ask us questions, you can tell us to talk about some specific topic, you can ask us to criticize your work or give you some advice, anything like this. So 15 minutes my topics, 15 minutes his topics, and 15 minutes your topic. This episode we have no topics. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the beginning of Calligraphy Masters, because exactly 10 days ago Calligraphy Masters turned 7 years. 7 years is it's so crazy. Like I don't even know
I
when
know.
so much time passed. Like it's not this much time, but it is 7 years actually, and it feels like 7 days. It's funny because I remember. Okay, let's talk about the Calligraphy Masters beginning. We just started. For those of you who are not familiar, actually I've explained a few times this story, but since the website has been down so many times, I lost so much database. Basically, there is no info about it online. There is one interview which I did for a Bulgarian hip hop show, but well, I guess most of you don't talk Bulgarian, so it's time to talk about the beginning of Calligraphy Masters. It was 2013 when I was doing a lot of typography and logotypes, and one day I was looking into the internet for some font. Yeah, and I found the video of TUS1, the Pilot Parallel Pen review, and I fell in love. I watched this video like, I don't know, 100 times, and I knew inside of me something clicked, and I knew that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. In the next few months, I was searching YouTube, internet, everything for calligraphers and other people that to inspire me, like TUS1. And the funny thing is, back in 2013-14, Google, YouTube, nothing was so full of calligraphy and lettering like it is now. It was so hard to find calligraphers, to find info and anything like this. And this was actually one of the main reasons that got me to realize that I need to make Calligraphy Masters. I was searching websites, I was searching people, I couldn't find anything. The only websites that I could find, they were super old with no information. So I got pissed. I came with the idea to make a community, a place where we share different artists' work, different calligraphy, not only modern or traditional. I mean, if you're following Calligraphy Masters, you know that there is everything, variety from traditional to modern to sign painting and lettering. What I'm trying to achieve with Calligraphy Masters is cover all the lettering arts that are made by hand. I like typography, I like digital stuff, but this is not what we are supporting as Calligraphy Masters. After TUS1, there were like this first year, I found few names, maybe 5 or 6, and Paul Antonio was one of those names, because there was some videos he did for Scribblers, if I'm not wrong. Well, how to start calligraphy? Was it Scribblers or?
Oh no! It was a company that came to me and said they're doing these series of videos. I can't remember who they were. It was this is like maybe 12 years ago, 12 or 15 years ago. They came to me and they did these videos, and they brought a lighting crew and camera crew, and I contacted a lot of my suppliers and I asked them to send materials in so that I can sort of discuss how how to start with calligraphy, what types of scripts there are, which tools work for those scripts. And it was quite interesting because they had done quite a lot of research online, and they had looked up, they'd done research on what people were searching for. It's interesting sort of getting a list of topics about calligraphy from non-calligraphers. You sort of I looked at the topics and I thought, these are really crazy questions they're asking me. What did they say? One of the questions was how to do calligraphy. And I sort of looked at this question and I said, surely you want to say something like, how to start calligraphy, or what are the different forms of calligraphy? And so, I am thinking about it from somebody who studied calligraphy for a long time. and they're thinking about it from a complete layman's point of view. Now I've done so much sort of social media stuff, I'm sort of looking back at it, and you realize that people have a very different thought process pattern about the questions they ask about a topic.
Yeah, especially when people are not into our field, like especially when they're calligrapher, they're beginners. They ask the craziest questions. There are few things that annoy me so much, and those things you see them all the time. One of those is, what is this font? Like, what is the name of the font? Like, when I see font, oh my god, it pisses me off. But yeah,
I just say script.
I feel a bit responsible for this because, the website should never been down, and there should be all this info there. It will come with the time. It will come also with this podcast. We'll explain stuff like what is the font that you're not supposed to call calligraphy fonts. There are scripts and hands, but fonts are only for typography. But yeah, this is another topic. I was telling the story of Calligraphy Masters beginning. Paul was one of those first people who I found, and of course he was super advanced. I was like, wow. I contacted him, and he was one of the first 6 or 7 people that said yes to being a part of Calligraphy Masters. And on January the 11th, 2014, we officially launched the Calligraphy Masters on Facebook. And since that, it's been crazy. There's so many things happening. I guess if you're interested in hearing the whole story, I can do another podcast, or maybe something that I've been planning for a long time and I never did it, is to make this kind of videos on YouTube, the story of Calligraphy Masters, where I basically tell the whole story. But if you guys want this, please let me know in the comments. This podcast will be uploaded on a new YouTube channel, which will be dedicated to the podcast. And it will be also uploaded to all the audio platforms like, Google Audio, I don't know, Spotify, Apple Podcast, everything. Like, whenever there could be a podcast uploaded, it will be there. I mean, we're not prepared. As I said, today's episode is a bit freestyle. That's because first of the condition of Paul, he's not still 100% recovered. And last few weeks, I'm super busy with other projects that I'm doing. This is one of the reasons that Calligraphy Masters has been on hold for the last month or two. Today, we're starting again, back to full power of Calligraphy Masters. And yeah, Paul is one of the first people who said yes to being part of Calligraphy Masters. And he, Tius One, Matius Wolski, Pokras Wampas, and I'm not sure, maybe I can miss some other names, but those are the people who are still in the team today, which have been 7 years supporting me, supporting Calligraphy Masters. I don't have enough words to express my gratitude to Paul and to all the people which are part of Calligraphy Masters. Calligraphy Masters changed my life. It brought me to places that I never imagined I could go. I became friends with people which I admire, and they were my idols. And seriously, this is the best thing ever happened to me after being a bartender for 11 years. And I don't know, I'm super happy. My first week of this year started a bit roughly, but since that, every day is being crazy. Like, I feel like I'm living in a dream. I love my life even more every day, and it feels good. Finally, we're starting this podcast, which we've been trying to start for a couple of months, but we're finally here. I'm not sure if we're gonna upload 1 episode a week or maybe 2. For now, in the beginning, as I said a few times, we wait for Paul to recover fully because he cannot speak so much and he gets tired quite quickly. This is also the other reason I'm speaking so much right now. But I'm running out of things to speak about, so Paul, maybe
let's talk about the topics that you wanted to talk about. That you feel people.
It's funny because when I started Calligraphy Masters in the first 1-2 years, maybe it was very easy for me to come up with topics because I was super beginner, and the topics were basically the things which I needed to have questions to. I'm still beginner today, but I have a lot of experience now. I know so many great calligraphers like you, and I watch you, I know what you talk about and what other calligraphers does as well. So it's very hard for me to choose topics that are gonna be useful to the audience. Of course, there will be topics that we're gonna speak about, things that I feel passionate about, and no matter if they are useful to people or not, because this is one of the things that actually was driving Calligraphy Masters. What I've done with Calligraphy Masters since day one is basically whatever I like, and I feel that's great to me. If it goes in one of these boxes, I was just sharing it with the people. But yeah, time passes, things change. So guys, you should really help us a lot by telling us in the comments what you want us to speak about. I guess that the topics of Paul Antonio will be advanced stuff, maybe beginner stuff. You know Paul, he's like an atlas of calligraphy, maybe even few atlases. So much knowledge in this person. This is like, it's crazy. But yeah, what I want to speak about, like the usual things, Paul. You know what I usually ask you. Funny things
I think it would be good to go back to some of those earlier topics, because there are always people coming into calligraphy, and I think it's always important to recognize that there are beginners, always beginners. And how do you progress from a beginner to and in my mind, you have 3 stages in each category. You have a beginner, then you have an intermediate beginner, and then you have an advanced beginner. And from there you move into an intermediate, and so you have a basic intermediate, middle intermediate, and upper intermediate, or an advanced intermediate. And then of course you move into the advanced sections. Looking at what beginners need is always really important, and trying to help them to sort of get better. One of the things that I'm always conscious of with my followers is, how do I help them get better faster? It's very easy to get frustrated with calligraphy.
Yes.
Because you're sitting there and you're just writing and writing and writing, and you're not really seeing an improvement. So how do you get out of that rut, which a lot of calligraphers tend to fall into, which can be quite frustrating. And also, you're just plowing through nibs and ink and paper, which can be fun. So I think looking at topics like that would be great for people. Maybe we look at things like how to practice, how to practice a script, how not to practice too many scripts, because lots of people start off, they're just learning so many different scripts that they're not actually spending the time to buckle down and concentrate on one script. Because of course, what a lot of people fail to realize is when you practice one script and you become conversant in that one script, you really understand the script, you understand how to control it. You also understand how to control the tools, you understand a little bit more about paper nib interaction. And once you've consolidated that one script and you move to another script, you take all that learning with you, because it's transferable information. So you become better at learning a script much more easily. When you do too many scripts, it can break up your concentration, and so you're not really that focused. So it might be good that we sort of focus on one script. We talk about it in detail. We sort of.
I'm up for everything, because there's been so many times you share knowledge with me and even sending me videos. By the way, guys, about editing, the website, I'm gonna try to release it tomorrow. There is an article which I wrote about people that we need to help us. But if something happens, like I failed so many times with releasing it, I'm just gonna say now on the podcast, if you're supporting Calligraphy Masters, and if you have skills in editing video or audio, feel free to contact us, because I'm editing the videos, I'm editing the podcast and everything, but I'm doing so many things and I don't have the time to focus properly on better things and improving Calligraphy Masters. So if there are people who are good with editing and want to help the podcast, if they want to edit the episode of podcast, feel free to contact me. Either drop me a message on Instagram, Milenist, with it is MILN1ST, or you can write an email to to info@calligraphymasters.com. If you're up to edit the podcast for us, I'll give you I don't know, I'll think about it, but there will be a few minutes in the podcast that you can promote yourself, talk about something that you do, because right now I need what was the name of the people
Editing.
Volunteering people,
Volunteers.
Yes, I need volunteers, because at this moment I'm not able to pay people. At this moment we need to find some people which really love and support Calligraphy Masters.
One of the things that you guys really need to sort of know is, over these last 7 years, Milan has been doing everything. He does all the editing, he has to come up with the concepts, he has to figure out what to post, what topics people, and it's an obscene amount of work. When he stayed with me, we came into the studio and it was insane how much you have to learn in order to edit the videos and make them look really good, and then think up of concepts and think up of direction and contact people and ask them for information, and then it's a lot. So those of you who have skills, and Milan will post this letter, which has quite a lot of detailed information about some of the things that Calligraphy Masters and some of the people Calligraphy Masters are looking for as volunteers to start off helping. And of course, there are lots of benefits to helping. There is a lot of content that Milan has planned. I mean, I've talked with him extensively about this. And you will get included in some of the content. You'll have access to things that you wouldn't normally have access to. So there are lots of pluses to volunteering and helping out Calligraphy Masters.
I think the best thing if we find the proper volunteers to help Calligraphy Masters, there are going to be so many benefits, not only for us but for everybody who follows Calligraphy Masters. First, it will start blasting content like never before. It will be unique and original. Second, I'll have time to focus on other things like releasing books, releasing new prints. This is a second version of a print which I was supposed to drop in September and is still not released. There is a new version of the print with totally new letters. Some of the artists are different. It's also ready, but it's not printed. There is a lot of cool things that are gonna happen as soon as I have some free time. And I don't mean free time, but I mean if I have to focus on all the stuff which I'm doing now, I don't have time for this. Even if there are volunteers helping with different things, there's just so many great and amazing things that are gonna come up. You have no idea, guys. We are in contact with many brands. I have brands. Paul Antonio is in contact with many brands. We can do such great giveaways, challenges, everything, books, magazines. There's plans for so many things, and all this stuff should have happened for 7 years by now. But as Paul told you, I'm doing everything mostly by myself. And
also, nothing happens before its time.
Yes, I know, and
so
that's what I'm saying. I'm not complaining about it. I've chosen it myself. I know I've done my sacrifices for stuff, and I don't care. Calligraphy Masters is the best thing ever happened to me. I'm happy with how it's going. Of course, it's not what I want it to be, but with the proper people, with the proper volunteers and people to help us, we can build something that is gonna stay in the history forever, guys. For example, last time I was telling to my friend, which we live together, if I look back in 2013-14, calligraphy world was not what it is today. And I don't know if it's rude or if I'm correct to think this way, but I think Calligraphy Masters is quite a huge factor for calligraphy and lettering being so popular in the world our days. I don't know, maybe Paul can tell, maybe you guys can tell if this is true, but calligraphy can still go. There is still much to go and to become even more popular and interesting, and we can get even more people to start writing.
And writing correctly.
Writing correctly, that's true, because guys, a lot of you, you think I'm super advanced, master all this bullshit. I'm the biggest beginner in the team. There's more than 36 people in the team. And the reason for this is that I have no time. I'm doing everything by myself. And very often I don't have even time for myself to improve. Paul sent me his book. He gave me so much free stuff that he usually
Content.
charges for. Yeah, content, information. When I was in London, he was telling me stuff to do and to practice. I don't have time. It's not because I don't want. Of course, I love calligraphy. I give my life to it, and of course, I want to improve myself as well. But somehow, with the time building Calligraphy Masters, I realized that you guys are more important than me. Calligraphy Masters is more important than me, and Legacy is more important than me.
You did really well in the European meditation class that you attended here.
I'm not sure if this was so well. I was the person who got frustrated the most.
and that's part of calligraphy, you know. It's about how to channel that frustration and not let it get to you. So, you know, we'll be covering lots of topics in this NIBS podcast. You know, there's a lot happening. You know, Milan will release the website soon. I'm not going to give a date, even though he's given a date.
Tomorrow, like 26. Like I wanted to release it on the anniversary, 10 days ago. I was busy with other things. I didn't release it, and usually I should get so upset and angry on myself for not happening. But this time, I don't know. I feel like, despite what happened last year and despite how bad people think about 2020. With my hand on my heart, I say 2020 was one of the best years in my life. I learned so many things about myself. I learned so many things. I improved and grown up as a person and as a way of thinking. 2020 was really one of the best years in my life. And there were not so many things happening on Calligraphy Masters. But behind the scenes and what's coming up, so much is thanks to 2020. But this year, like 2021, I was expecting this year since 2019. This is my year, and so many things are gonna happen, guys. And just now I'm noticing the quality of my video is not the best. I'm gonna try to improve this. This is because I'm using Mac 2020. It's like, what is it, 8-9 years old laptop. It's the best laptop. It's the one that produced so many content for you guys for the YouTube and everything else. But yeah, I don't like this quality, and I'm gonna try to improve it as soon as possible. On the website, there is something that also we came up with Paul a few months ago, and that hasn't been on the website when it was active. There will be online workshops, like via Zoom. There are gonna be workshops with Paul Antonio, with other members of the team. I'm planning for the first few weeks, maybe first few months, the workshops to be only with the members of Calligraphy Masters. And depending on how it's going, I will start inviting people who are not in the team. I have so many friends which are great calligraphers and lettering artists, which have great skills, but as always, I prioritize on Calligraphy Masters team. And yeah, for those of you who don't know, English is my second language. While I'm talking, I realize sometimes I'm telling stuff which is totally wrong and not grammatically correctly. But maybe some of you are used to this. I'm gonna try to improve it. As I said, I haven't spoken English for quite some time, but I'll try to improve my English, video quality, everything, guys. I don't care when
normally you and I talk maybe once a week.
Yes.
And we've not spoken since the beginning of December.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. So and that normally sort of helped your English as well.
Yeah, it's true. Like,
so
and when I was in Copenhagen, it was different, because even if I don't speak with anyone from the team, everybody else in the city, I'm speaking English. But here in Bulgaria, I'm speaking mostly Bulgarian, and if it's not Paul or somebody else that I'm working with, I don't speak English. But I'm back. Podcasts are back. YouTube is back. Today I'm releasing. Oh, I don't know why I'm telling it, because the podcast is not gonna come up today. But yeah, that's it. Today is gonna be the first video of the year. Tomorrow and the day after are the first 2 episodes of Weird Calligraphy for the year. And next week, I'll start posting everyday videos on YouTube. If there are people who want to help with edit, please contact us. I'm super hyped, guys, about the podcast. I'm super hyped about this year. I'm super hyped about everything. I'm super happy. I'm grateful. And I guess this is for this episode. This was just mainly to introduce what we plan and what this podcast is going to be about. Paul, if you have some things to say, Go for it.
So I know some of you follow me. Some of you joined our classes. And what's the matter?
I just realized I'm not recording my audio via the program that I usually do. It's okay.
No.
There is still gonna be audio, but yeah, guys. Apparently, not only the quality of the video is not gonna be the best, the audio could be also not the best. We're gonna improve everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how we start. It's more important
it's
to start.
Our first, and we've started it. I agree.
Yes, done is better than perfect.
Because I fell ill, we had to cancel all the classes in January. I'm not really supposed to be in the studio. The doctor said to me, "You cannot work at all." But I found that sitting at home and for the first 2 weeks, I really couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fortunate that Tim was better than me and he could do so much, but I couldn't even cook. I couldn't even chop vegetables. It was really quite shocking. And the studio walk is a 10-minute walk. It took me 45 minutes to walk in. First time I did it, it was so slow. And I was so grateful when we got in that I could sit down. I mean, really, it's like being an old man. One of the things that really bothered me was the fact that people were waiting for the classes and we had to postpone them. We've completely restructured the classes. They're starting in February. And I've not told you this, but while I was in hospital, I was thinking, how can I make this teaching experience more? And I have a lot of paleographical knowledge. I know a lot about the history of calligraphy and where it comes from and where the scripts come from, what their evolutionary pattern is. And so I thought on a Tuesday, we would do a lecture. And on a Sunday, we would teach the workshops. So every Tuesday is a lecture about the script I'm teaching on the Sunday. And I'm just typing up the descriptions and it's really, really quite exciting. So the first lecture, and I really want to talk to you about this, the first lecture in February is a lecture that is, it took me 10 years to put this lecture together. So it covers 3,500 years of the Western alphabet.
Whoa.
And I normally do it for an hour, and it's a little bit tight to fit it into an hour. So I'm actually going to do it for possibly 2.5 hours, because it really gives me the breadth to look at how the Egyptians and the ancient Egyptian scripts and the cuneiform came together and really look at the whole history of our writing system. Western writing,
Is this lecture gonna be online? I mean, are you gonna upload it somewhere, or is it gonna be something on a live, like Zoom?
So we're going to do it on a live, so it'll be on Zoom, and then we're going to record it, and then we'll have it live. I think we're thinking about possibly putting all the classes and lectures on Teachable.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe of. What?
I'm sorry that I just when you say Teachable, Skillshare is sponsoring the videos on YouTube, but in the last email I talked with them about that we can do some classes on Skillshare, and they gave me some access, but I haven't go deeply through it. But if you want, you can upload also there.
I was thinking of putting this video on Udemy, Teachable, and Skillshare, because it's for anybody interested in handwriting, not even calligraphy, in handwriting and calligraphy, or anybody just interested in understanding, these 26 little letters that we use, where do they come from? And the history is so beautiful, to go through. We're roughly starting at 3,500 years, and to move through that into the Phoenician scripts and the Greek scripts and the Roman scripts, and looking at uncials and book hands that we see in the 8th century, and then Carolingian, and then the whole gamut of Gothic script, quadrata, semi-quadrata, fraktur, batard, Flemish current schrift, and then moving into sort of humanist minuscule, and then the Renaissance period, and then the English roundhand period. This lecture, I've had so many companies, and not calligraphers, but corporate brands book this lecture because it's so fascinating. I was giving this lecture in Phoenix to a group of crafters, and there's this one thing that I show. There are a few things that I show that really shock people. And I did this one thing, and this woman in the room swore really loudly. She was like, "Oh," and I was just like, "Oh my goodness!" And the whole room started to laugh, and they said, "Is this real?" And I said, "This is where our letters come from." So it's a really fascinating lecture. And if you're interested in calligraphy, it also shows you the range of historical calligraphic scripts that we have, because most people do some Gothic scripts, and they might do some textualis and some fraktur. They do italic, copperplate, some Spencerian. There are so many more historical scripts for you to delve into and really go down rabbit holes that you don't even believe exist. So that's the first lecture. And then, I'm starting with copperplate. Copperplate is my first workshop. So I thought, you know what? I want to do a lecture on copperplate and talk about the confusion. So many people do so many different forms of copperplate. People are confused about what's English roundhand, what's English copperplate, how does it differ from engravers and engrossers, and people use these terms interchangeably, and they shouldn't really be used interchangeably. And then I want to talk about my copperplate script that my fourfold symmetry. So helping people to understand this sort of the history of the scripts, it really gives you a sense of the scope of the script. So that's the lectures on the Tuesday, which are going to be really exciting.
Is it next Tuesday?
And it's in February. So we'll start them in February.
All right.
And it's just, I last night I was typing up some of the descriptions, and one of the workshops and lectures that I'm doing is one on ligatures. And I sort of typed up this thing, and when I started doing research on ligatures, this was like 20 years ago I started this, you would not believe how many ligatures there are. I mean, there's millions of them, and and in the Gothic period, there's so many more. I mean, most people think, ligatures are like the little join on the S and the T that you see in italic or in copperplate. But when you go back into the Gothic period, there are lots of contractions and suspensions. And so instead of writing Dominus or Deus, they would write D and an S, because it was one of the words that you saw a lot in the Bibles, because of course Deus is God. So you have D stroke S. And sometimes the D would have just a little bar to connect it to the S. And oh my God, the ligatures are so exciting. And then I sort of started looking, if there are ligatures in the Gothic period, then there must be ligatures in the period before the Gothic period. So I started looking at Carolingian, and then I have this book on Roman scripts, and the Romans used tons of ligatures, and so it's for me it's exciting because I get to share this historical understanding of something that people don't really understand. And I think the lectures are going to be really informative, and I'm really excited about doing them, as you could tell.
Yeah, I can see, and it's great to see you like this, because last time I saw you in this video, I never seen you like this, and I really don't want to see you again like this. So I'm really happy to see you smiling and being passionate and excited as always. And yeah, there is one thing I'm like really concerned about. It's like if we're gonna be able to fit in 45 minutes, because you love to talk so much, and I wrap my part, and I ask you like, are you gonna wrap it? And then we're like again 15-20 minutes. But I don't know, what do you think about 45 minutes? Is it gonna be enough for you?
I have one more thing to show you.
Go.
The lining template is ready.
Oh,
I'm going to do a video on it, and I'll share the video. So there's so much there. We have a little QR code, and so the QR code, we're going to have tons of videos on how to actually use it. At its simplest, you just put it down, and it's thick. It's 3 mil thick,
When
So
is it
the
going for sale?
Perspex doesn't. I have to talk to the fabricators this week, and we've been working on the packaging design because we needed the packaging to be able to do 2 or 3 different things because we have other things planned. So excited! But I'm really, really excited. You know, Telmo and I have been working on this lining template for like a year now. And it was funny, just before Christmas, I was looking for something and I saw the first version of it and I sent it to Telmo, and Telmo called me up and he said, my gosh, such a big difference from the first version. So I'm really, really excited about this because of course this is our first product. You know, first PScribe product. I mean, apart from the Rhodia pads, which have been doing amazingly. You know, so many people have been writing to me and saying the paper is extraordinary. So, you know, we'll do a giveaway with Calligraphy Masters and get some pads out to some of the followers because I'm really honored and blessed and grateful to have been able to bring a product like this to market that really makes a difference. You know, I remember when Rhodia asked me about it and I said, I want this because this doesn't exist on the market. And they were like, okay. And we worked on it, we pulled it together and the product came out. Of course, it came out at the beginning of lockdown. And it took a long time for the shipments to get around the world. And people started using it. And I was so touched by some of the comments. You know, nobody's complained about it. Everybody has had the best things to say about it.
They don't complain because they don't have the knowledge you have and they don't have the minuses the path has. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so that's some of the stuff that's going on. You know, I think for this podcast, I'd really like to talk about things like how to approach calligraphy a little bit more seriously. You know, and it's different when you're starting off and you're just.
What's this?
Toys.
No, it's not toys. This is it's like a cover for a pilot parallel pen.
Oh wow!
You unscrew it and you put the pilot inside. I mean, you've probably seen Tios one and Frac one writing with one of those. I haven't even opened it yet because I'm waiting for the new pilots to arrive because I don't know if I get this out, if I'm gonna be able to bring it. So it's sitting here for 2-3 weeks. I want to try it so badly. But yeah,
I mean the new pilot pens I'm really keen to see. Came in on Tuesday and I thought I need to see because you know I still don't have the sensation in this finger back.
Okay.
So all of here is sort of numb and cold. It was this one as well, but this one's just coming back. This one's taking a little while. So I tried to write some copper plate on Tuesday and it was terrible.
Now you're gonna be writing like me, you know? Look, this finger is when I broke it last year. So you're gonna be similar to me.
But it's, you know, I did some writing on Tuesday and I was so shocked at some of the control is there, but there are places that when I do turns, I start shaking and I was just like, oh my God. So I started to think, you know, if somebody had asked me, I've injured my hand or I've been ill, how do I start back writing? I thought, you know, maybe coming up with something like that would be really helpful.
Maybe we can speak in the next episode, like how you come back to calligraphy after going through COVID.
Yeah, but not just COVID, you know, lots of illnesses, or if you've been ill for a while, how do you start back writing? Because I must confess, you know, I've been writing for more than 3/4 of my life, and I've never not written. This period is the longest period I've not written. And I was actually really afraid of sitting down and writing because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it. And I sat down, and, you know, at home, we have, you know, you've seen the freezer list at home. You know, so we have a big freezer and it's always full. And so we have a list, and the list is drawer 1, drawer 2, drawer 3. So we just sort of go into the drawers, look at, see what, and the writing is about, you know, 1 millimeter in height, 1.5 millimeters. And I couldn't do it. When I got home, I couldn't Tim said, "Oh, just put this in the freezer." And so I went to drawer 3, and I was trying to write chicken soup. Tim made this massive pot of chicken soup, and I couldn't form the letters. I didn't have the confidence with the tool. The tool was shaking, and I was like, oh my gosh, if this is happening with a biro, I won't be able to do calligraphy. And it built fear into me. So when I came into the studio, I couldn't actually sit at my desk and write. And then I did start writing, and I just looked at the writing. This is terrible. So it made me start to think, how do you come back to it? How do you not be afraid of making mistakes? It's quite a different sort of experience for me, which I think would be good to help other people. So even from being that ill and still being ill, there are positives out of it. So maybe something like that is something that we could start with, because of course it'll also help beginners start. How do you approach it and not be afraid of it? How do you jump in and not sort of jump in and start thrashing about? How do you create a structure that really helps you to progress? So I'm really excited about. I think that would be a really good aspect of the NIBS podcast, to really help people. I love helping people, and I love sharing that information.
There is no other.
All right.
No other living calligrapher that ever has given so much information and who has dedicated so much time of his life to helping and improving people's calligraphy, other than Paul Antonio. And if any one of you doesn't know it, now you should know it. So guys,
Thank you,
I think we exceeded 45 minutes. I'm not sure. I'll check it later after we finish this. I want to thank you for listening, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please feel free to give your suggestions, questions, and ideas about what we should talk in the podcast. Do it in the comments. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you're excited about it, please share it on your social medias. Share it on Facebook, on Instagram. Like this video if it's a video, if it's on Spotify or anything like this. I don't know. Give a rating. I'm not sure. We'll learn about those things. But basically, this is about the first episode of the NIBS podcast. I'm super grateful to Paul Antonio and to everyone who is watching and listening. Thank you, guys. And as always, keep writing.